It was February of 1999 in Jerusalem. I was studying at Machon Schechter as a cantorial student, feeling lost and overwhelmed by and surrounded by people who were more knowledgeable and observant than I was, when I had a flash of clarity that would inform my understanding of the Hebrew language forever. It was the moment that I learned the three-letter root of the word dvekut, which means clinging or cleaving to God. It was an experience that made me fall even more in love with Hebrew when I began to understand the hidden scaffolding of interconnected meaning that hides behind every Hebrew word. Dvekut comes from the root daled vav kuf, vet kuf, and is also the root of the word devek, glue, the modern Hebrew word. It was a revelation to me that a sacred word about our relationship to God, cleaving, could be connected to a word that is so common and functional. It seemed so contradictory, but what an image. We yearn to be so connected to God that we are stuck together, clinging to one another, unable to be separated except by an irreparable tear. This image formed my experience of the union we long to achieve with God for many years. It was not until recently when I began to understand the deep sense of loneliness that also comes with that kind of yearning that I realized that the glue metaphor has one undeniable limitation. You are never truly one with the being with whom you are trying to merge. Even the finest glue, maybe the kind that dries clear and smooth and super thin, leaves a layer between two pieces of paper. It is a necessary part of the union, the slight separation that keeps the two sides intact. If union were truly possible, you wouldn't need the glue. So the yearning, the longing is eternal and ever present and leaves a space where you cannot ever be one, truly one with God. Perhaps this is because proximity to God, when approached with a pure and open heart, leads ideally to proximity to our own sacred center, to closeness to ourselves. So the slight separation is necessary, or we might find ourselves looking into a mirror. Or perhaps it's because we need the separation in order to effectively partner with God in the healing of the world. But either way, God may be one, but we, no matter how much Torah we study or how pure our thoughts, will never be entirely one with God. And yet it is our job every day to strive for that union anyway. In the Alter Rebbe's Kabbalistic book called the Tanya, he proposes that every person has within them two souls, which are forever intertwined and at battle with one another. The first is the animal or vital or natural soul, which is called the nefesh behemit, wherein lies our desire for physical pleasure and satisfaction. It's our lust for forbidden foods and sexual relationships that comes from this animal soul, as well as our desire to speak lashon hara, to gossip, or to be lazy or idle, or to satisfy those cravings immediately. Our animal soul, says the Alter Rebbe, is incredibly powerful and must be tamed and controlled by turning our deeply felt desire into a longing for God instead. Interestingly, he also notes at the end of chapter 1 that it is not only sin that comes from the nefesh behemit, from this animal soul, but from this soul stems also the good characteristics, which are to be found in the innate nature of all Israel, such as mercy and benevolence. So the animal soul, this nefesh behemit, is not inherently bad, but it must be kept in check and guided towards fulfillment in holier ways than what the body craves, says the Alter Rebbe. The second soul, the nefesh elokit, or godly soul, is driven by dvekut, by that longing for connection to God, even though, or perhaps precisely because, our divine connection is always in danger of being taken over by the animal soul. The godly soul guides our lust and our desire to higher places, to higher consciousness, to fulfillment in holy and healthy ways. But it takes daily and sometimes hourly work to keep our thoughts and cravings in that elevated place, he says. That is why the Nefesh Elokit is clothed in 3 garments. This is all very mystical stuff. Thought, speech, and action. It has to have 3 garments clothing it, the combination of which guides each person in the fulfillment of the 613 commandments of Torah. It is honestly daunting to consider the lengths to which the Alter Rebbe believes that we must go in order to live pure and elevated lives. And it is also discouraging to think of how broken we all are if such requirements are necessary to be good people. However, one of the most beautiful and inspiring ideas he proposes is that we can channel our animal desires and use them for good. This reassurance, the idea that we are strong enough to elevate our nefesh behemit despite its magnetic power, is part of what makes it possible to understand why God made us with these 2 souls in the first place, struggling with each other. At the opening of the Shulchan Aruch, which is our code of laws, Joseph Caro says that one should strengthen himself like a lion to get up in the morning to serve his Creator, so that it is he who awakens the dawn. We should burst out in the morning like a lion. Our animal soul can feel so powerful that it controls us, but picturing it as a lion changes the image entirely. Lions are fierce and natural, to be sure, but they are not out of control. They are regal, and when on the hunt, extremely intentional and calculating. If we can think of our nefesh behemit as a lion, with a laser-like focus on God rather than on sin, perhaps we can begin to imagine that we can have that kind of focus and self-control as well. Or perhaps the image could be another creature from the animal kingdom, the deer, the ayal. In Yedid Nefesh, which we just did this evening, we sing, Yarutz avdecha kemu ayal, I leap like a deer to serve you, conjuring the beautiful picture of our souls taking flight into Shabbat and into our desire to be shalem, complete for one day. Perhaps we need the lion to tame our nefesh behemit, and the ayal, the deer, to lift our spirits high enough to know that connection is possible, even if only on Shabbat. So if every person is charged with the daily task of managing the relationship between the 2 souls within us, if we posit that this is true, thereby creating an opening for us to be in relationship with God, then God must be involved in this plan for humanity as well. In Midrash Tanhuma, we find the story of Tyrannus Rufus, the Roman tyrant, who challenged Rabbi Akiva about God's power in the world. If God wanted man to be circumcised, he asks Rabbi Akiva, why didn't God create man circumcised? To which the rabbi answers that God created man with a symbolic imperfection in order that we should join the Almighty in perfecting ourselves. Why does he not come out circumcised, says Rabbi Akiva? Because the Holy One, blessed be he, only gave Israel the mitzvot, the commandments, in order to purify them. In this way, human beings become partners with God in creation. What Rabbi Akiva is saying is that our work, our struggle, this excruciating human experience is part of our holiness, a piece of how we reflect God's image in the world. So if our struggle is indeed part of our holiness, then I would suggest an alternative relationship between our two souls than the one the Alter Rebbe suggests. I don't agree with him. Far be it from me, but I don't. What if the eternal wrestling that we experience as humans is not meant to be relieved by our godly soul taming our animal soul, but by the two souls learning to work in harmony with one another? What if we're meant to summon the spirit of Isaiah, who said, "The wolf shall dwell with the lamb," and try to achieve that relationship within our own beings, and in doing so, serve God by seeking union from within? Isn't it possible that our two souls aren't meant to battle each other eternally, with one controlling the other? Couldn't the answer be our souls reaching out to each other in an effort to emulate God's oneness, rather than cling to the illusion of separation between the souls? In my years of dedication to cultivating my own inner spiritual life, I've come to believe that though the dichotomy exists within us all, God is also within the dichotomy, not just in our godly parts. If God is one, isn't God in our animal soul as well? Is it possible that the two souls that reside within us were actually placed there intentionally in order for us to partner with God in the immense work of fixing the world? The two souls make us feel restless, but also connect us to this eternal and vital work that God has asked us to do while we are alive. The broken world is mirrored by our own brokenness. We may only feel settled in our nefesh elokit, and our godly soul, for moments at a time, but those moments should be strung together like beads on a string to bring us closer and closer to our goal of being clothed in our union with God. Even clothing, like glue, leaves a layer between us and our Creator, but it may be the closest we will ever come to the connection we desire. And perhaps the slight separation and the longing is what drives us daily in our desire to not only keep a firm and guiding hand on our animal soul, but also to extend a bridge of connection to our godly soul, calling our two halves to become one whole, to reach out with dvekut, with that glue, with that longing and compassion for each other as an essential piece of our work as partners in creation.